All right, this is the Uintah Precision UP15 rifle. I have this one chambered in 223 Wild. It has a 16-inch barrel with a 15-inch M-LOK handguard. It's coming in at an overall length of 34.5 inches. One thing about the Uintah Precision, you can buy just the upper. The upper will fit on a mil-spec AR-15 lower. I actually got the package deal, so it came as a complete upper and lower, but you can buy the uppers separate in a variety of calibers. This one's chambered in the 223 Wild chambering. It has a 3-lug 60-degree bolt throw. That took me a little bit to get used to because I'm used to the typical 90-degree bolt throw. One thing I'll say is I did change out the bolt knob. This is a Glades Armory bolt knob, and it threaded right on, and I like it a lot better than the one that it came with from the factory. One thing you'll notice, there's very little pressure on the bolt lift, because unlike a standard bolt action, when you're resetting on a standard bolt action, when you're resetting the firing pin, usually this is the action that's resetting it, whereas on this one, the hammer, it's a hammer-fired gun, I guess is what you could call it, but you get the reset as you draw the bolt backwards. So that's where all the pressure comes in on this one. And I'll show you that real quick. So I was cleaning this so the bolt and everything's dry, but this is the 3-lug bolt, and you can see the back side of it. Hopefully we can see that good. Let's refocus here. There we go. That gives you an idea. Of the bolt. And while we're here, there's a little groove, and there's a pin at the top of the upper receiver, and when you have the bolt closed, that pin goes into that little indent, and that helps to hold it closed. So I did notice some pressure from that when you're getting ready right at the end. Sometimes you'll see when people are running the bolt, you'll see a little hang up right at the end. It's usually right in there where you see the hang up, and that's kind of where that pin is catching right as they come into there. And what I've done with my gun is I just back the pin out. There's a flathead screw right at the top, and I back the pin out. Well, there we go. And I backed the pin out about a quarter of a turn, and that made it just a much smoother action. So you can see the hammer here, and that's just your standard AR-15 style. So let's get it back together. This is just a 10 round. But anyway, here we go. So, there we go. So we've got it loaded up here. The trigger is 3.5 pounds. That's what it's advertised at. And you probably won't be able to see it. You might be able to if I move that. But the trigger has no creep. Hopefully you can see good. It just breaks 3.5 pounds. I did measure how much force it took to draw the bolt backwards, and it takes right at 6 pounds. And I measured the bolt lift on another rifle that's pretty common. A lot of people have a Tikka. And I also measured a CZ527. And on the 527, it takes about 4.5 pounds of bolt lift to recock the spring. And on the Tikka, it takes right at 6 pounds. So it's pretty equivalent, but the force you're getting with this is not on the lift or on the close. It's when you draw the bolt backwards. So as you draw it back, it resets that hammer, and then we bring it forward again. So we'll go through the firing cycle so you can see that again and show you what it's doing here. So you can see the hammer is up after it would have hit the firing pin. And then as we reset it, it's drawing it backwards. So that's where the resistance comes from. It took me a little bit of time to get used to that, but overall, I really like it. It's not too hard to get used to. The trigger is one limitation that I would say. I do want to try to replace this trigger with something lighter than 3.5 pounds, but that is probably one of the biggest drawbacks to this type of rifle system, is that the lock time, or the time it takes from when you pull the trigger for the firing pin to go into the primer to set off the round, is going to be longer on a rifle like this than your traditional bolt action. And that's because the hammer and all the movement that has to take place for the round to go off. But we'll cycle a couple rounds so you can see. And so we're on the last round here, and it does hold the bolt back on the last round. You can push the bolt release on the opposite side, and it'll allow it to go forward. I don't mind that feature at all. It's pretty handy to know that you've run out of rounds. This is the 10-round magazine. This is a 20-round PMag. I don't have quite enough height here, but so that just shows you cycling a few rounds and what it looks like. I think I've covered most everything that I wanted to. I'm going to do a part 2 where I do a range review, because I have taken this gun to the range. So look out for that video. Thank you for watching.